How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back. We are back with patch notes. Today, we received them several hours ago. A little bit late on it, but it's okay. We're back and we're uploading videos again. We're doing this on a live stream, so we have some chat interaction, hopefully, for people that want to stop by. But it's 10.12 patch notes today for both League of Legends and TFT. So we'll be taking a look at the League of Legends ones first. So without further ado, let's see what they have in store. So they're wishing all us a happy summer, hopefully. Hope everyone's having a good summer. I know obviously things aren't right at the moment as the world would want it to be, but we'll persevere. We'll push on. So I haven't done one of these since I think it was 10.5, so we're going to take a look and see what they've changed. So obviously I know they introduced Volibear, so he's got a different splash art there. So who do they buff? They buffed Akali, they buffed Brand, they buffed Senna, Victor, Volibear himself, and Xayah. Cassiopeia, Fiddlesticks, Trundle, Varus, Yasubo were all nerfed. And then obviously the most important part, the aesthetics, the Glim Glam, High Noon Aurelia, High Noon Senna, and Hextech Nocturne. So we'll take a look at those at the very end. So let's start off with Akali. Akali's full of cold steel and competitive potential, but we're not really seeing her in pro play yet. She's just normally limited, and we're giving some baseline to boost her bread and butter damage ability. So they upgraded her Q 5-point strike up by 5 damage at all ranks. They did not increase the attack damage ratio, but they did increase the AP ratio by 0.05. Is this enough to bring Akali back in the meta? No, because Akali is a bad champion and needs to hit her items power spikes on very specific timings and doesn't really scale too much without very high level of play on the Akali player with not much defense needed by the opposition, especially in pro play. In solo queue, this will obviously help a little bit. Will it be noticeable? Not really. It'll probably help a little bit with the wave clear, but you know, they kind of nerfed that a bit beforehand. Brand, increased mana restore on a blazed enemy takedown. So bring up Brand's mana restore in hopes that he'll punch up in his mid lane stats without pushing his power over his support line. Okay, so they basically made the mana from 6 to 18 to 20 to 40. Okay, so that's quite big actually. So basically, if you use an ability on anything as Brand and they're hit by it, you get the blaze passive, and then obviously you can spread with your E, you can use your W again, and it will give you a mana restore, so it allows them to sustain more in lane. That's quite sizable, especially at level 1. So if you think 14 mana per unit, you're looking at 3 units killed. That's a return on, I think, like base pillar of flame, maybe it's just slightly under. So that's quite big actually. It's good for sustain. It means that he could probably just bypass going mana items such as Luden's Echo or GLP, and he can go straight for Liandry's Royal Eyes, which makes him so powerful. Moving on to Cassiopeia. So Cassiopeia's health was decreased by 15 base, armor decreased by 2 at base, but her magic resist was boosted up. So they're making her more of a magic, like a counteract to a magic matchup. So she's going to be even better versus Rise because of the 4 magic resist. She was always a counter to him anyway, but they wanted to make her a bit more versatile to armor. So she said, the Serpent has been embracing both top and bot with open arms, and we're primarily aiming these changes to scale back her prowess in those lanes. Okay, so they're focused on bot lane and top lane Cassiopeia, which makes sense. I'm fine with this balance change. If you want to still take her down to bot lane, it'll make her a bit more, you know, weak in those regards, or in the top lane where typically AD champions are more prevalent. Fiddlesticks, W minion damage reduction increase, so he just does less damage to minions now. Obviously with the AoE ability, it doesn't do a crazy amount to minions. They're just, you know, they're just trying to make it so that he can't just drain a whole bunch of minions in mid lane or something and help the mid laner roam. They're really, from what I've seen on the PvE and stuff like that, they're trying to change the way mid laners is basically just wave clear bots and then they go and roam elsewhere to help other people, and they want to basically reduce that. Senna. So Senna's been nerfed about 18,000 times, so let's see what they did. General bug fix. Fixed a bug where Senna's crit attacks weren't reducing her attacks wind up time correctly. Okay. And passive absolution. The drop chance is now from 1.6% on minion Senna kills to 8.3% on Menace Senna kills. Okay, so they're basically allowing Senna to be an 80 carry, again, somewhat. Obviously, fasting Senna is obviously better, and for those that don't know what that is, it's basically a situation where you have a support that can basically get the minions somewhat easily without taking too much damage. So like Maokai, like Set, these beefier champions, or something even more annoying like a Soraka who's got a bit more range, you just go for a sustain lane. And basically Senna's perfectly fine with not taking any of the minions and just poking people out because she's gaining stats while just hitting you. So it's bumping up basically having Senna 80 carry. I guess they don't care for fasting Senna too much, or they still want it to be both an option as well as Senna taking the farm as well with the traditional sport. We'll have to see. Trundle, they're just basically trimming his stats to be all normal, and then they took his frozen domain, lowered it early but buffed it later. So what's the most important? So level 1 is 10% less, which is quite big. I believe as jungle Trundle you max this last, I want to say. I think in top lane you may max it second. I can't remember because I think in jungle you max pillar second after Q. I could be wrong on that front, but yeah, it's a big hit early on, and you basically don't regain those stats until more or less rank 4, where it's just a 1% decrease, and then it's obviously slightly better at max rank. So just trimming off some of Trundle's power there. Varus lowered his attack growth by 0.11 per level, and then the damage ratio on his arrow is was trimmed off actually a decent bit, so that's around 10% nerf plus the maximum off it. So you'll notice that on poke. I think this is targeting the lethality of Varus, is overtaking the attack speed option, even though I still think the attack speed option is definitely viable, and can also see play as in the mid lane, but it just favors a more poke heavy style. His wave clear is a lot faster with poke oriented build, so I can see why they'd be trimming off some of it there. Victor, Q discharge damage ratio, increased shield ratio increase. So his damage on his Q is up by 0.05, not too much there. And the shield ratio is up 0.05 and 0.08 on the empowered one. So overall, just a little bit. Does that working out to be a crazy amount? Not too much. The shield is probably, I'm not going to be able to do the math. Someone like Freak would probably be able to know that a little bit better than me because he usually crunches the numbers on it. It's not going to be a crazy amount. Will it be the be-all end-all? Probably not, but it's giving a little bit extra power in an area where Victor might otherwise need it. Okay, Volibear. So they changed a lot about him, so I obviously know his abilities and stuff like that, so let's see what they actually did. So general, his E and Stormrazor impact creators now disperse faster, so I guess they go across the ground faster. More visual clarity on his abilities. Fixed a bug that where Volibear hummed way too often. That's pretty interesting. And Volibear's Eternals are now live. Alright. So they upgraded his mana growth and they upgraded his health growth. Yep. The thing that I found with Volibear, just before I even look at these, is that Volibear was he was really tanky, but he just didn't do any damage enough to where it was threatening. That was what made Maokai really good, is that his CC was really good. He could live forever, but his damage was also nothing to scoff at either, with his root and his Q and all that sort of stuff, and his ult. And then obviously previous iterations of Maokai where his root did max health damage and all that sort of stuff too. So Volibear is Thundering Smash power can no longer be interrupted by crowd control once it's been initiated. That's very good. It now scales with attack speed. Should have done that in the first place, in my opinion. Volibear's Thundering Smash will no longer reset. Will no longer fail if you quickly reclass after being interrupted. Okay, fair enough. W, animation bug cancel. Okay, Volibear will now continue to attack its target even after Frenzy Maul on them. I think that's good. Made larger and better anchored to target's health. Okay, cool. And then his ultimate. So it disables the turret for more time early but less later. So his max rank 1 disables it for 1 second less. That's good. That means earlier on he's more impactful. His epicenter radius is slightly bigger, which is good, which means he can hit more. The base damage is higher at the first and second ranks, so quite good. A little bit more power at level 6. And considering it's an AoE ability, 50 damage can be effectively 250 if the scrap happens with all 5 people at level 6. But level 11 is probably the one you want to most look at, which is 25. So you're looking at 100 damage split across everyone, 125 damage if you hit all 5 people. Is it significant? Yeah, it's a good, nice little buff. Is it going to make him a lot better than what he is now? Probably not. Model size slightly reduced, and turret disabled with Stormbringer has much darker to denote their status. Okay, so overall a little bit of changes here and there. You know, it's nothing really too crazy here. Moving on to Xayah, our base damage increased. So the base damage is 100, 150, 200 to 125, 253, 75. Wow, that's a big change at rank 3 rather, for the level 16 ultimate. And it's a very sizable change at level 11 and only a slight change at level 6. So basically at level 11, Xayah is going to be a lot stronger with her ultimate up around those like mid-game team fights. Yasubo, they lowered his health from 523 to 490, so that's half an auto attack, still always noticeable. His flow shield activation is now from 100 to 150 now to 115 to 525. So he does gain slightly more shield, but he has less base health to compensate it. So they basically want you to use his shield rather than his just health pool, because his shield is quite strong in itself. And they made wind walls cooldown 30 seconds at rank 1, so Yasuo being able to be more punished. Obviously this is a max till last, so you basically don't get the amount of cooldown until around rank 4, rank 5, basically, from what it was before. And that's it for all the champions. We'll do we'll go over everything really quickly for competitive and solo queue, in my opinion, after all of this is done. Ruins, approach velocity. So approach velocity and unflinching have very low pick rates and unintuitive functionality. The goal is to broaden them so that champions can be, while making them simpler and more understandable. Okay. So instead of gains 15% movement speed towards movement impaired allies or enemies you've impaired, you now gain 7.5% movement speed, so less than what you had, half of what you had before, when moving towards an impaired champion. Increase to 15% if you were the one who impaired their movement. There's no longer a max range of 1,000 for champions that you have CC'd. Okay, so basically, you only gain half the movement speed if somebody else impaired them. If you impair them, you get the same speed as before, but there's no range, so you just have it all the time, basically. So if I'm somebody who hits somebody with ability from 1500 range and it slows them, I still get the 50% movement speed the entire time as long as approach velocity is active, which is quite nice. I think that's a fine change. Guardian is a powerful keystone that has been largely unpicked and ignored despite outperforming other keystones like Area and Aftershock on individual champions. Okay, so they're making the tether range bigger by double. Okay, their trigger damage is any damage, so 90 to 25 post mitigation damage in the last 2.5 seconds or lethal damage. Okay, so they're basically making it so that it's not just you poke it and it's gone. It has to be a significant amount of damage for the Guardian to actually kick in. So in a one-off scrap, it's better. In a just kind of mini trade, it's not going to be as good. The shield amount is slightly higher, and it no longer gives you movement speed. Okay, I think that's a fine change. It's supposed to be more of a we're going to use this as a we're getting engaged on type of thing. We're taking a significant amount of damage. Guardian is going to be here to protect me. Predator, while delivering an excellent fantasy, Predator often loses sight on its prey by having a difficult cast paradigm and unintuitive optimization. Okay, so what are they going to do to it? So they're making the cooldown from 150 to 100 seconds to 100 seconds and 70 seconds. It's going to be way more often. The damage is going from 60 to 180, now at 30 to 90, with half the bonus attack damage ratio and 40% of the ability power ratio. The active can no longer be disabled for the first 150 seconds of the game. Okay, and run as fast as you can. Upon completion, Predator now grants 45% movement speed while moving towards an enemy champion at range of 3,000, including enemy champions out of vision. Okay, so you gain a significant movement speed boost when running towards other champions, on the enemy team, and the challenge active can no longer be interrupted if you cast an ability or enter combat. Still has a 1.5 second ramp up time. Okay, so it can be interrupted now. If you active is no longer interrupted if you cast an ability or enter combat. That has been removed. So that means it can be interrupted if you cast an ability. Okay, Predator now only deals damage and ends the hunt against enemy champions. Okay, and the duration is 10 seconds. So I guess they, let's see what they put. We're attempting to broaden it from its niche role on a few junglers to make it more of a standard initiation option. Okay, so it's basically like, here's Shurelya's with a little bit extra damage for your as an engage tool. So I guess this helps champions that don't necessarily have the form of engage that they would. Maybe champions that need to get around more often, they can use that, but obviously it can be interrupted now from the looks of it. Need a bit more clarification on that. So overall, do I think it's better? I think it is better because you can make it, change up a few different things if you want to be more active. Predator allows you to do that. It also makes champions that are they don't have a gap closer to get in on somebody. So like as an example, Trundle needs to get in range to use his pillar. This could be useful for him as an example. Taste of Blood. Indicate a Taste of Blood's icon. A player appear when it's on cooldown. Okay, sure. Unflinching and approach velocity have pick rates we mentioned this before. So now it's instead of 10% slow resist, 10% tenacity for each summon spell on cooldown, stacking up to 20%. Gain 15 for 10 seconds whenever you cast summon a spell. It's now 10 and 10, just flat, and gives up to 20% more slow based on your missing health. Okay, so this is not summon a spell reliant. This is based on how low your health is. So basically, the more you're running away, and the lower your health gets if you're being chased down by somebody, this will allow you to get away a little bit better. So is this good on champions that like Singed? Of course it is. Singed on super low health, you get able to run away. Teemo, very good at doing that too. Champions that are very hard to stick to, and even when you do stick to them, you can't really kill them all in one go. This can help out quite a bit. So is it a good change? I think so. Ghost. Ghost movement speed now activates instantly. Okay, Ghost increased move speed duration now extends by 4 to 7 seconds when you get a takedown. Okay, so if you kill someone during Ghost, you can keep going fast, so it's like Master Yi ult. The movement speed is lowered from 28 to 45% now down to 20 to 40%, and its cooldown was increased by 30%. So they basically want it to be not just something where for the first few levels you're just using it if you want to get back to lane. They want it to be more impactful if you use it in a fight. And they also want to make it so that it's not just roam every 3 minutes and you just uncatchable. So I like that change. Elemental terrain. So we're pushing the terrain up a bit further in scope. Okay, so infernal terrain. So now they have blast cones near the tri-brush near Grump. Okay, so I think that's the one. Yes, so that would be the just on the top side of the blue buff where the top lane tower and the bot lane towers are on blue side and red side respectively. Blast cone by the wolf camp, blast cones by each base gate, and blast cones in the alcoves. Interesting. And then the Scryer's blooms for Cloud in front of the base gates, in front of each tri-brush in the river, and Cloud Train now grants 35% move speed if you're out of combat versus champions. Increased from 20% always. Okay, fantastic. And then they have, excuse me, a bunch of bug fixes here. And then we got the main juice. So it's a High Noon Senna. Looks very, very cool. If it reminds me basically of a Twisted Fate skin. I can't remember the name of it. I think Underworld maybe. It looks quite cool. I really enjoy that a lot. High Noon Aurelia. Kind of looked like Aurelia went to Graves and kind of asked for a makeover, and this is kind of what Graves came up with in a sense. Except Aurelia learned how to wield fire as well at the same time, which is quite interesting. And then lastly, Hextech Nocturne. This is pretty cool. This actually reminds me of, he does remind me of a Dota character just in general. I think his name is Doom, but this more so because of just his color scheme, in my opinion. And then obviously we have the Chroma, so we have High Noon Senna. Pretty cool. I think this one kind of appeals the most. It kind of actually looks like she's holding like a popsicle in some kind. You know, you get those multicolored popsicles. Usually they're red, white, and blue. I think. The Aurelia one, I like this one a lot. This one's also pretty cool as well. High Noon Jhin. Oh, I like this one as well as this one. This one makes him look even creepier from before, and this one kind of makes him look like he has a skull face, even though there's supposed to be a bandana here. Those are pretty cool as well. And then last, Bandito Fiddlesticks. Don't really care for those too much, to be fair. Probably the only one, I'll probably say this one, and maybe this one are okay. Alright, let's go back to the top and check out everything just as a quick rundown. We'll use this here. So overall, obviously I like the skins a lot. I think the Chromas for the most part are very good. In terms of the buffs and nerfs, Kali, both solo queue, slight increase in probably win rate, probably not too much. So competitive play, shouldn't be picking a Kali anyway. Brand could definitely see competitive play, definitely both in support and in mid lane, because this mana allows him to get just mana back in general, but he could also be as a bot laner as well, not just necessarily a support. So he could be the partner with Senna, as they're both very good with poke, and he is a good fasting Senna target, and he's ranged as well. Cassiopeia probably won't change too much. She'll be slightly easier to punish in the bot lane and top lane. Will it affect competitive play? No, you'll probably still pick Cassiopeia in the spots where you want her to be. Fiddlesticks probably won't see too much change. Senna, fasting Senna's still better in both cases. Trundle won't see too much. His clear speed will definitely be hit with the 10% movement speed on his domain, and his ganking potential will be a little bit slower. He won't be able to move around the jungle, so just by using frozen domain and running around, his movement speed will be slightly reduced. I think I said attack speed before. Meant to say movement speed, but yeah. He won't be able to move around the map as much by just using it and then being able to use it during gang. Poke Varus slightly decreased. We probably will see a significant decrease in people maybe start experimenting with maybe some hybrid-oriented builds again. Victor probably won't change too much. The numbers are too slight. Volibear still needs some work, I think, in both competitive and in solo queue. Xayah, I think, is a very good pick now. I think you'll start seeing her in the bot lane, especially as a more of a mid-game oriented pick. Yasuo, you're probably still going to pick Yasuo in the spots where you want him. He'll be a bit more vulnerable in the bot lane because his win wall has a longer cooldown, but as for a mid laner, probably won't see too much of an impact on him for the most part. Just maybe in the laning phase will be a little bit more punishable, and he'll have to be wary of people dashing around. Approach velocity, I think it's a good change. You'll still pick it when you want to pick it. Guardian, I think, will be better on more defensive-oriented supports. And for more of just like mitigating the lane and just trying to survive it. Predator now opens up more options, but obviously less so on the champions that were already using it, like Gragas as an example. Taste of Blood it's just a PUT change, is always appreciated. Unflinching is going to be more annoying on tanks. Ghost is going to be very good for champions that get really stuck in fights. So this could be very good on bruisers, so like or juggernaut type champions. And then obviously the elemental terrains are very good, and they allow for more balance with the rifts. So you have the honey fruits for the ocean, and the increased like walls and terrain added to the map for the mountain. So that's gonna do it for the 10.12 or 10.12, however you want to say it, patch notes for League of Legends. Make sure to follow us on Twitch here. Make sure to go check out all the socials. They're down below. We're over on YouTube, PilotFlame226, as well as on Twitter. So make sure to check us out on those platforms. And until next time, take care.